Welcome to AK Anime Explainer. Today is explanation of Soul Land 3, Legend of the Dragon King Part 205. Without any delay, start explanation. Tang Wulin shook his head and stared at Guu. I don't need 1 minute. I'll only need to ask her a question. Guu, I've only ever loved one girl in this world, and that girl is you. Do you love me? He once had thousands and millions of words he wished to tell her, yet when he was truly confronting her, he could only speak these words. These words were already enough for him. He needed an answer that could make him stop caring for everything else or make him walk into another world. He raised his right hand and extended his turned palm. Glossy golden scales spread from the exposed wrist all the way to his palm. Shining, golden claws appeared with his 5 fingers flexed inward. He pointed the sharp claw straight at the top of his head. A gush of thick blood essence fluctuation burst out from his body abruptly. It was difficult to describe, but during that split second when the thick blood essence aura appeared, every single soul master with a dragon-type martial soul at the scene gave out a muffled grunt. They appeared ghastly pale, and even Long Yu was no exception. How was this possible? How could his blood essence be so powerful? Long Yu's face was dumbstruck with amazement. He thought that he had already achieved another level after his 3 years of painstaking cultivation. Tang Wulin was certainly no match for him 3 years ago. Even if his bloodline power was genuinely capable of suppressing Long Yu, he would never have defeated Long Yu if it was not for Guu's assistance. 3 years later, it was even more impossible. Long Yu was already a 2-word battle armor master, and he was one of the world's most powerful. It seemed like he had already possessed the strength to confront and fight a title d'allure. Yet, just as that fellow's bloodline aura burst out at that point, Long Yu fearfully discovered that there was an intense feeling of submission within his body's bloodline power that was almost out of control due to the suppression from Tang Wulin's blood essence fluctuation. It was as if it would only take one thought of his for the bloodline power in his body to strip away and submit itself before Tang Wulin. His bloodline aura was several times more powerful compared to 3 years ago. How is this possible? How could a person's bloodline aura be so strong? Brother, don't! Nao shrieked, yet she dared not move at all. She could clearly see the golden radiance pulsating on the golden dragon claw. Tang Wulin would only need to lower his palm ever so slightly before he would graze his head. I'll only need to know the answer. That is the answer in your heart. The genuine answer. Don't lie to me. I can tell from your gaze and your bloodline. I can sense if you're telling the truth. Tang Wulin stared at Guu with burning gaze without the slightest concession. Guu looked at him absent-mindedly. Tears were no longer streaming down her face. All of a sudden, she felt as if her entire body was about to have a breakdown. She nodded strenuously as tears poured down her face once more. She could not help kneeling onto the lotus leaf. She could not speak anymore, but only nodded vigorously. Tang Wulin smiled proudly as he put down his right hand. He took a step forward and stood before her. He pulled her up from the lotus leaf into his arms. An enormous creature emerged underneath Tang Wulin's body, accompanied by a valiant dragon's roar that pushed his and her body into the air. The massive beast's thick and strong back limbs supported it beneath the Sea God Lake's water. Its enormous body that had emerged from the surface of Sea God Lake's water had already exceeded 50 meters. That was the colossal overlord dragon, yet it did not look like a spirit soul but more like a genuine creature. It had thick and heavy black scales, and blood-red eyes that were huge, in addition to its terrifyingly humongous body. It displayed its incomparable power and that it was the most powerful dragon. No matter how powerful Long Yu was, his mountain dragon king was just a martial soul. On the other hand, it was as if Tang Wulin managed to summon a genuine overlord dragon. Moreover, it was not an ordinary overlord dragon. There was a dark golden gloss that was shimmering faintly under its pitch-black scales. Guu buried her charming face against Tang Wulin's shoulder with her arms tightly clutching him. Just as she witnessed Tang Wulin point his golden dragon claw at his head, that string that was tightly wound around her heart all along finally snapped. It had ruptured completely, and she could no longer suppress the emotion in the depths of her heart anymore. Her uncontrollable emotion burst out and drained through her tears profusely. How could she ever forget the bits and pieces of their past, and the warmth she felt when she was with him once again? How could she forget about how he had always placed himself before her without hesitation when they faced danger together? A man is not a stalk of grass or a tree. If her initial encounter with him was due to some ulterior motives, then with the passing of time, all her purpose had vanished in silence. Despite knowing that she should not behave as such, she did not mind in the beginning because she trusted in her self-control. Just as she realized that everything had already begun to break away from her control, it was too late. Everything was already too late. Tang Wulin's silhouette had already rooted into the deepest part of her heart. How could she stay away from him so easily? During that split second when she witnessed his appearance on the opposite side in the Sea God Fated Date Festival, she had almost lost control of her emotions. She used such tremendous energy in order to suppress the emotions in her heart. She knew that she should absolutely never couple up with him even if she were to admit her defeat. Otherwise, everything else would be affected by him. Hence, she refused to reveal herself from the beginning to the end. Part of her was even hoping for him to turn his back on her and leave with another lover. Yet, she knew that she was wrong when he spoke of those words. At the same time, her face was covered in tears, her heart was filled with gratification. Everything that she stopped herself from doing broke down during that moment when he raised his golden dragon claw in the end. She only wished to hold him tight at that point. She leaned in his embrace as she sensed the warm hug that she had not felt for the past 3 years. She cried her heart out. Every pent-up frustration that was accumulated in her heart seemed to have vanished without a trace at that point. She refused to think about anything else. She only wished to be a woman quietly for that very moment. Tang Wulin hugged her tightly. His heart suddenly felt fulfilled. He knew that she still loved him when he saw tears streaming down her face, and that time did not manage to weaken his feelings for her even a little. The words that she used to hurt him back then were nothing but her masks. As for why did she choose to put on those masks, did it matter? Was it still important now? Dayuna raised her head absent-mindedly and looked at those two persons hugging tightly on the giant dragon's head. She suddenly felt like her appearance was unnecessary. She did not resent him at all, for it was precisely as he had said, they were acquainted with each other too late. Enea did not cry, nor was she sad. She was smilingly joyously with a smile that was filled with gratification. No one knew what she was smiling about because there were very few people who saw the smile on her face at that exact moment. The ceremony is completed. I wish to congratulate Tang Wulin and Gu for being destined for 3 reincarnations, and I wish the both of you to stay happily ever after. Lan Mu's voice echoed through the entire scene. Meanwhile, it was time for bride kidnapping, but for some unknown reason, Long Yu found he was unable to take a step forward, despite having already been prepared to attack. When faced with that enormous overlord dragon and the powerful bloodline aura emitted from Tang Wulin's body, he found that he had no way to summon up the urge to attack. Moreover, was this not something he wished to see? Tang Wulin did not couple with Yuna anyhow. He subconsciously took a glance at Shu'emaya standing by his side. He looked toward that stern and even slightly aggressive maiden and discovered in astonishment that tears were gliding down Shu'emaya's eyes soundlessly. Tears streamed down her face because she was moved as she watched the two figures on the Overlord Dragon's head. It was also at this point when Long Yu's heart was suddenly stirred as if some feeling was being moved. This was a feeling that he had never felt before in his life. The Overlord Dragon slowly leaned forward and sent them back to the water surface. Silver light flashed on Gu's body as she carried Tang Wulin and vanished together from the lake surface in the next moment. They were transported into a far distant place that they could not even be seen on the shore. The Sea God's fate on the Sea God Lake would undoubtedly become a memorable incident of the Sea God Lake Date Festival, which everyone dwelled upon with great relish. The surface of the Sea God Lake was still shimmering, but it appeared slightly dimmed following their departure. It was as if the protagonist of the event had left. Tang Wulin had never known Gu to be so passionate that he could almost melt in her arms. She kissed him spontaneously. It was a kiss that tasted slightly salty. Her soft, full sensuous lips parted with ineffable passion bursting forth from within. How many years had it been since Tang Wulin suppressed the feelings in his heart? He hugged her tightly and wished that he could just hold on to her and be locked in a passionate embrace with her forever. He did not know where he was, but he knew he was surrounded by trees. He worried not, as he was with the most important person in his life. The kiss lasted for a very long time. They were both young and inexperienced, so inexperienced that they were not sure how to proceed. He could only hold the small of her back tightly while she wrapped her arms around his neck. It lasted for a long, long time. It was not until both of them were almost breathless and their lips were swollen, only then did they loosen their embrace and panted loudly. "If I were to say I don't love you, will you really kill yourself?" Gu inquired, a little out of breath. "Why would I kill myself? I was just going to scratch my head with a golden dragon claw." Tang Wulin chuckled. Gu raised her head and stared at him, while he took the opportunity to give her lips a soft peck. "Liar!" Gu spoke in rage. Tang Wulin smiled and spoke, "If I could lie and convince you, then I'm willing to be a liar for the rest of my life." "Gu, I love you." Gu paused for a while. When the passion in her heart had subsided, she was calm for a moment before her rational mind took over. She buried her head against his shoulder. Then, a tinge of bitterness showed on her charming face. "You shouldn't have done that, you know? You're playing with fire and you'll get burned. I can't be together with you. We're different, so we won't be together eventually." Tang Wulin spoke calmly, "If we are destined to be apart, why worry about it now? Since we're together now, let's enjoy the moment. In any case, should this be our destiny, I'll be by your side to face the future with you, no matter how difficult it would be." "You don't understand." Gu shut her eyes in agony. "I do." Tang Wulin spoke with determination. He did not inquire about Gu's concern, because he knew that she would tell him sooner or later when she wanted to. On the other hand, if she did not bother to tell him, then he was willing to face it with her no matter what it was. Gu grabbed his shoulder. She could not bear to leave his arms. "Wulin." She looked at him in all seriousness. Tang Wulin smiled and said, "Tell me what's on your mind. I believe that you already know my intention, but you should also know that I've always been a very persistent person." A sense of bitterness was revealed at the corners of Gu's lips. "What if one day you realize that I'm the enemy that you have no choice but to confront? What would you do?" Tang Wulin answered, "If the day comes and you're the enemy I have no choice but to confront, then you should kill me so I can live in your heart. Then we'll never part at all." He spoke very calmly. Those were not meant to be sweet-sounding words. Nevertheless, tears began streaming uncontrollably down Gu's face. Tang Wulin wiped the tears off her face. He cupped her charming face in his hands gently. "What happened? Tell me, so we can face it together." Gu shook her head. "No, I can't. If there is truly such a day, then perhaps I'll kill you. Aren't you afraid of death even just a little? Could it be that you aren't concerned about your family members at all? Let me go. As long as I'm not by your side, I still have control over everything. However, if I remain by your side, you'll die sooner or later." Tang Wulin smiled. "In any case, it's only because I'm not powerful enough. Gu, don't worry. I'll work hard to become more powerful so I can protect you well. Tell me, who's threatening you? Who are they? We're in Shrek Academy. Could there be anything else on the continent that our students can't manage?" Gu shook her head strenuously. "No, that's not it. You don't understand, you just don't understand." Tang Wulin watched as her emotions were suddenly agitated, so he hastily held her in his arms. "All right, we won't talk about it then. You can tell me when you're ready. I'm sorry, Gu, but do you know that I really love you so much? Don't ever leave me no matter how difficult the situation is. I'll always stay by your side." Gu did not speak anymore because she knew that it was impossible to make him change his mind regardless of what she said. Yet, what should she do? Should she be with him for just a moment's comfort? They were not who they once were. They were adults now. Their affection for each other was no longer the silly puppy love it once was. If they were still together after the Sea God Lake Date Festival, she knew that it would be difficult to keep herself under control and the relationship would only become more serious. The both of them held each other tightly. "Let's go. Come to my place," Gu whispered softly. "Sure. I don't have a place to stay coincidentally." Tang Wulin had just returned recently, so it was true that he did not have a place to stay. Silver light shimmered once again. She refused to leave his arms, so she could only use her spatial retreat to bring him along as they left silently. Tang Wulin was astonished to discover that despite his spiritual power, which had already attained the Spirit Abyss rank, Gu still managed to exert a feeling as if the spiritual world was as vast as the ocean when she mobilized her soul power. What rank had her spiritual power already achieved? Gu's place was similar to Enea's. She too lived in a small wooden cabin on Sea God's Island, but it was not located in the inner court. This was not a place easily available to an ordinary inner court disciple. She was assigned the cabin only because she was the leader of the Shrek 7 monsters. The origin energy on Sea God's Island was way thicker than the external world. When cultivation was practiced here, any type of martial soul would yield twice the result with half the effort. She held him as they lay on the wooden bed, which was covered with a bedsheet. She cuddled against him as he held her. He did not have any intention to be physically intimate at this moment except for a feeling of pure affection flowing from his heart. Everything else paled in comparison so long as he could embrace her like this. Her breathing had returned to normal and was especially relaxed. Her knitted brows were no longer knitted as she fell asleep nestled in his arms like an infant. He smiled as lethargy crept into his body. He had not rested since he returned. The tranquility of the moment with the woman he loved in his arms made him feel exceptionally contented. He closed his eyes as he gradually drifted into dreamland and entered into a world that belonged to the both of them. The Sea God Lake in the early morning had a mysterious beauty to it. Mist clouded over the surface of the lake while blue waves rippled on the water. She stood by the lakeside for a very long time. Her shoulders were covered with the morning dew, yet she did not have any intention to brush it off. She appeared like an elf with her silver hair blowing in the morning breeze as she gazed distantly into the foggy dawn. Her large purple eyes reflected the lake water. The corners of her lips cracked into a faint smile. Another woman walked over silently and stood by her side. Her black hair blowing in the wind made her glow with health. There was a faint blush on her charming face. However, when she saw the other woman, a smile vanished. They stood side by side as they gazed into the crystal-clear lake water before them. "You've won." Enea spoke in a soft yet relaxed manner. "It seems like you really want me to win." Gu frowned. Enea chuckled. "Yes. I actually want you to win badly, as I figured that you'd win anyhow. I understand him too well. Can you believe it? I exist only as an episode in his life. I confessed my love for him so I could have a suitable excuse to leave. He would be sad if you were to leave." Gu spoke. Enea shook her head with self-mockery. "I had lost. Am I allowed to stay? However, I had already known that I'll certainly lose. Anyway, I had to lose, otherwise, he would have died for real, right?" Gu was silent. Enea sighed softly. "Back when we were betting, I made a firm resolution to place the bet because I knew that you only pretended to kill him, yet you wished to appear flawless in your soul. I didn't have the choice but to comply with you. Otherwise, you would have a flaw in your soul at the time, which meant you would kill him without the slightest hesitation. Do you regret your choice now?" Enea asked. Gu was slightly stunned. "Regret? I don't know." She genuinely did not know if she regretted or not. Enea spoke. "If you didn't wish for all of this to happen, then you shouldn't have established the method to integrate into the human world back in the beginning. Facts proved that your practice was right. Only by understanding mankind can you truly discover the method to destroy them. However, we've discovered that not all mankind is completely useless. At least, mankind's empathy is something that we don't have. That's why there are you and me when we were young. We had no choice but to seal ourselves in order to become more like human beings, so we could truly integrate ourselves into human society. That was how part of our spirit that belonged to mankind was born. When you realized that mankind's sentiment in you was getting out of control, you requested me to erase it by force. By then, it was already impossible. It would have caused you great harm. On the other hand, all this was because my brother brought me love and warmth, so I understood mankind's sentiment. You stripped me away from your body because you had no other choice and made me into an autonomous individual. However, I would always be a part of you even when we're two separate individuals. That was why you placed a bet with me to find out whether my brother would fall in love with you and abandon me. If you were to win, then it would prove that mankind's sentiment was fake, so I would merge into your body once again. On the other hand, if you were to lose, then you would make me into a complete individual as you promised. Isn't that correct? What a waste that I have your intelligence but mankind's sentiment. It didn't take long for me to realize that it was utterly impossible. I take up 30% of your overall power. You would never be you anymore if I became an integral whole in the end. Thus, you'll never abandon me. The only choice is either we merge back together or you have a flaw. Hence, if you were to lose, then you'll certainly kill my brother and force me to merge with you. Am I right? Guu stared at Enea. Her charming face turned pale as she listened to Enea's rhetoric. Guu, do you know that I was willing to bet with you because you totally don't understand mankind's emotions? You thought that my brother and I had a romantic relationship which you assumed. Actually, you're wrong. We have a family relationship. Perhaps I did not treat him as such, but he considers me his sister. On the other hand, he is not treating you with affection but true romantic love. Love and affection are two completely different things. Thus, he has never abandoned me nor betrayed me despite choosing you. In that sense, I've lost. Yet, you won't be getting the result you wished for. Thus, it's truly difficult to tell who won actually. Guu looked at her deeply. Do you really think that I don't realize you've been planning all these? Enea smiled. Of course you knew. How can you possibly not figure this out being so intelligent? Just as when you attempted to be estranged from my brother, you already sensed that your feelings were affected. Unfortunately, love has a subtle influence on your character. It was already too late when you realized that something was wrong because he already had a place in your heart. Thus, you've been attempting to break free with great effort for a long time. Yet, the more time passes, the more he begins to grow and take root in your heart. Guu, do you realize that we are inherently too naive whether we are soul beasts or divine beasts? Moreover, no matter how powerful your energy or how vast your spiritual power, there's no way you can resist that emotion once we are engaged with matters of the heart. It has no form or shape, yet it truly exists. Guu spoke bitterly, so do you think that he won't matter anymore by saying this? Do you really think so? Enea sighed softly. At least he'll live longer. When he becomes powerful enough with time or when you're incapable of fighting him anymore, I believe that no one will be capable of killing him. Guu, face your emotions or enmity will only blind you. Guu suddenly spoke in rage, you're just like a human being now. Enea smiled. I'm a human being initially. I've always thought so. That is why I refuse to destroy mankind and I'm even willing to see us living together in peace. I love my brother and our parents too. I enjoy mankind's world and its idiosyncrasies. You've won, yet you've lost too. However, I truly wish that you'll have better results in the future. No, that all of you will have better results. Guu's breath quickened. You really think that I'm incapable of killing him mercilessly? Enea shook her head. Of course you can't. You can't since the beginning. Even in my absence, you can't either. Otherwise, why do you wait until now? Since when have you been so hesitant? Perhaps you stood a chance when you were hesitant the first time, but you'll probably never kill him again after you've been hesitant thrice. I understand you well enough, so you must be clear about this in your heart too. After we've merged, you'll be me and I'll be you. You'll be affected even more and have great difficulty in making up your mind. You must love him. My brother is truly outstanding. Even though we don't know where his Golden Dragon King bloodline came from, I'll admit that he's the only one worthy of being our companion in the human world. Gu's face was filled with disappointment. My biggest mistake was my decision in placing the bet with you back then. I shouldn't have made you into a separate whole at all. At least, I would still be able to exert my subtle influence if we had remained as one. You've lost, and I've lost too. You're right that I couldn't bear to kill, that was why I could only leave him and allow time for our love to fade. Perhaps by doing so, I can kill him one day. Maybe, he can grow fast enough so he can kill me one day. You understand that the conflict between us can't be reconciled. This is the conflict between mankind and soul beasts. It's also the conflict between godhood and divine beasts. It's a conflict that we are incapable of resolving. Enea was quiet. She had become desolate. When I'm gone, you'll be gone too. He's going to be sad. Gu's body shuddered. It's still going to be better than me staying by his side and our people losing control and taking the initiative to kill him. I'm still far from being able to walk out of the seal completely. The core is already awakened, but you know there are many powerful creatures amongst our people. There are even some powerhouses capable of becoming divine beasts that I'm incapable of suppressing. Hence, I'm destined to leave. Enea bit her lips. Perhaps you're right. You've truly changed. You know how to take others into consideration, especially him. I understand now that you must leave in order to give him more space to grow. You wish he'll become powerful enough one day that there's no way you can kill him. However, you know that's impossible. The divine realm is non-existent. He'll never achieve your level till eternity. Gu smiled. You know it, but you don't understand it. You have no idea what he means in my heart. Neither do you have any idea what percentage of me belongs to mankind now. You're right that I do have regrets. I regretted my decision to issue the order to integrate into the human world at the beginning. However, I'll need to fulfill my mission, yet there are those I'm unwilling to harm. Thus, let me face the contradiction alone. I don't know what to do either, but I'll need to move forward anyhow. Come back, Enea. I'm no longer Guu from today onward. My name will finally be complete, only that he won't know it'll be Guuana. Speckles of radiance shimmered as Guu's body suddenly turned translucent. It was a white silvery translucence as the hexagram underneath her feet conjured a layer of formless shield that enshrouded both of them. If one were nearby, one would realize that there was not an ounce of energy fluctuation seeping out from that white, silvery world. Enea's body turned translucent as well. She began walking toward Guu one step at a time with tears streaming down her face. It's hard for me to leave all this behind, everyone around me, my teachers and my brother. Guu sighed. However, you should also know that no matter how hard it is, you don't have an energy source, so you're destined to return. Otherwise, you'll only vanish into thin air. You said it before that I'm you and you're mine when you've returned to me. I'll let go of everything. Since the floor has already turned into a rift, then we shall accept this rift together. Perhaps everything will be different now. The silvery white silhouettes overlapped. Enea and Guu spread out their arms as the two silhouettes began to slowly fuse together. Guu's black hair vanished while her black eyes turned purple. Enea's childlike look disappeared as she slowly grew in size. Once the two of them looked completely identical and had transformed into the dragon spear goddess, who was 3 years older, the silver light suddenly vanished with a flash into the silent sea god lake. Tang Wulin did not know how long he had slept, but he felt that it had been a very long time since he had ever rested so well. The feeling was simply indescribable. Guu. He suddenly recalled where he was, but he did not open his eyes. His face was filled with satisfaction as he smelled the unique fragrance of her body. He subconsciously reached out for her slender figure. Nothing had happened since he had only held her as they slept through the night. It was a sentimental communion, but his heart was blazing hot at that moment, perhaps due to the early morning sun. Despite not knowing what to do, his instincts were still functional. Yet his hand touched nothing. That hypnotic slender figure was not by his side. He could still clearly remember that her physique was extremely elastic. There was not an ounce of excess flesh on her body. There was an indescribable sense of comfort as she lay in his arms. "Guu." Tang Wulin called out once again before opening his eyes. The sun penetrated through the window of the room, and a ray of light fell onto his body. He felt unusually comfortable and warm. The wooden shed was empty, neat and clean. An extremely large food carrier was placed on the table. "Is this the breakfast she prepared for me?" Tang Wulin leaped up from the bed. "Where's Guu?" He had this thought in his heart as he walked to the table and opened the food carrier. All of a sudden, a mouth-watering aroma blew against his face. The food connoisseur Tang Wulin could determine at once that the meals in the carrier were all extremely nutritious. "Wow! Awesome! It's been long since I last had ruby shrimp. That's such a huge plate. It feels so good to come back. There are so many scrumptious foods found only on Dolor continent." The food carrier had a total of 6 tiers. Every tier contained a type of delicacy that was highly nutritious and extremely delicious. He could tell that the food was prepared in an exceedingly delicate manner and absolutely meticulously. Tang Wulin did not care about courtesy as he began to feast immediately. Soon, his tummy was already feeling warm and comfortable just as his mouth was filled with fragrant food. The energy from the food could even diffuse into his limbs and bones. The feeling was truly amazing. It's always the best when the tummy's full of food. "Where's Guu? Could it be that she's in class? Why hasn't she returned?" Tang Wulin pushed open the door and walked outside. It was a small courtyard on the outside of the room. It was not of great size, but it was covered in lush green vegetation. The place was filled with life source. Tang Wulin drew in a deep breath and then slowly exhaled. He felt spiritually renewed at once. "Where's Guu? Leave it be. I'll wait for her in the room. It's still better than looking for her everywhere. I think she should return soon since she knows I'm here." Tang Wulin returned to the room. Just as he was preparing to meditate as he waited for Guu's return, there was a sudden sound coming from the table next to the bed. He turned around and found a small soul communicator lying on the table. "Is this Guu's? She didn't bring along her communicator." Tang Wulin walked over and picked up the device. He hesitated for a moment before he answered the call. "Hello. I'm Guu's friend. She has forgotten her soul communicator. Please leave your message, and I'll pass it to her when she's back." Tang Wulin picked up the soul communicator and spoke in a highly formal manner. However, he was surprised to find that there was no voice coming from the other end of the communicator. "Hello? Can you hear me?" Tang Wulin inquired once again. There was still no sound from the other end. Tang Wulin frowned. "If you don't say anything, I'm going to hang up and regard it as a bad signal." "Wulin." Finally, someone called out with difficulty from the other end of the call. Tang Wulin's heart suddenly pounded loudly for some unknown reason upon hearing the voice. The expression on his face became somber. "Guu." Tang Wulin struggled to get the words out. Guu answered softly. Tang Wulin asked, "Where are you?" Guu answered irrelevantly, "Have you eaten the food I've left behind?" "Yes. It was extremely delicious. Come back soon, all right?" "I've just returned, so I have no idea how to enter the inner court." Tang Wulin smiled as he spoke. Guu spoke, "I'm sorry, Wulin." "Why?" Tang Wulin suppressed the uneasiness in his heart with great effort. "I'm leaving." Guu finally let it out. "Leaving? Where are you leaving to?" Tang Wulin asked in a hurry. Guu's voice sounded like she was sobbing. "I have to go, for myself and also for you. I must leave. I'm sorry, Wulin. I'm leaving." The soul communicator was suddenly hung up at this point. Tang Wulin was instantly stunned. He hastily dialed the number which Guu had called from but only got a busy signal. There was no way his call would get through. He dialed the number again and again persistently and kept trying over and over. However, he could only hear the busy signal. There was no other change at all. Leaving? She's leaving? Where can she go? No, I have to look for her. Tang Wulin dashed to the outside swiftly with the soul communicator in his hand. He had only just left the room when a gush of powerful and irresistible force suddenly descended from the sky. Tang Wulin felt as if he had slammed into a solid wall. His body bounced back, and he was flung roughly onto the floor. After all, his own incredible strength was not to be trifled with. Even though he had only just begun to accelerate out the door, he would have already built up a good deal of energy. Yet he was so easily bounced back, the shockwave must have been extremely powerful. A figure descended from the sky. It was a handsome youth, only that his handsome face currently wore a furious expression. With a single wave of his hand, Tang Wulin's body flew to him uncontrollably. He grabbed a handful of Tang Wulin's front robe. Where's Enea? Where did she go? Yunming, who was always calm on usual days, was truly ablaze with anger. It had been many years since he had been this enraged. Enea? Tang Wulin did not manage to react to the situation at once due to the panic in his heart. Yunming raised his hand and slapped Tang Wulin's head, and cold sensation radiated throughout Tang Wulin's body, making him shudder before he recovered. Enea? What happened to her? Tang Wulin hastily asked with anxiousness. Yunming had also calmed down. He recalled his status as he released his grip and placed Tang Wulin on the floor. He then handed a letter from his hand to Tang Wulin. Tang Wulin took it and was immediately stunned. Teacher, Enea has let you down, but Enea must go. I can't bear to part with you, teacher's wife, everyone and everything on Sea God's Island. Yet Enea must go. Please don't be sad, all right? Enea has a reason which gives her no choice but to leave. I must tell you that Enea has always regarded you as her father. Just like my brother's father. Teacher, please don't be sad. Enea is fine and everything will be good. Enea is leaving. Please help me to keep an eye on my brother. My brother is especially outstanding, so if you can, please accept him as your disciple. Also, please inform my brother that Enea is fine. Tell him that Enea is off looking for father and mother. Signed with love, Enea. There was not too much content in the letter, but only one matter was mentioned repeatedly. It was that Enea had left. This video will end here. Like video and subscribe to my channel.